Alright, time for a diesel heater install in the Jayco Journey Outback. I've gone with the PPAP one. It's a little bit more expensive than the Chinese ones, but you get 2 years warranty. And I've bought a couple other bits and pieces. So from the research I've found, I'll just do this install in roughly real time so you can sort of follow along and hopefully it helps someone else out. This is everything that's in the box for the PPAP heater. I've got all the pipes here. The things that I found to make sure you had is an actual proper filter with a sponge in there and a muffler. The other good thing about the PPAP heater, it comes with like the rubber stop, which other people recommend. It's got the remote control. All of them have the little controller. So yeah, it's supposed to be a 3000 or a 3 kilowatt heater, but I think it's a 2 kilowatt. Anyway, it should be big enough for my van. The other thing I did get was a carbon monoxide alarm in case there was any diesel exhaust leaks. But I'm not going to need it. Looking at the model of smoke detector in my Jayco, it has a CI alarm inbuilt, so I'll probably return that one, or I might just install it as a second safeguard. But we normally will leave a window cracked when we're operating it anyway. The other part that I did buy was this turret mount to go through the floor. Not sure if I got the wrong size or it's for a different unit, but that's about 150mm hole. It's not really the size I want to drill through the floor. That's the one that comes with the diesel heater, and this is the turret mount. So it's about 35 bucks off eBay. I wish I didn't buy that. I wish I just got this about 8 bucks from Bunnings. It's a 100mm downpipe dropper, and that'll work perfectly to go through the floor. As a bit of extra protection, I can sort of seal around that. So that's one of the other things I bought. And this is the last thing I bought, a diesel fuel tank cover from Yarra Supply. It's a black checker plate one. I'll probably mount it about there on the rear bar. And here is all the tools I ended up needing for the job. Pliers, crimpers if you want to extend the cable, a couple of screwies, a socket, hole saw kit. I just got a cheap Bunnings on, a drill bit set, a drill, tape measure, Stanley knife, the elusive 10mm spanner, and a 7mm spanner, and then the vacuum, and of course caulking gun and the fire rated mastic. I forgot that was out. The next part was pick a location, so I didn't want to sacrifice any of my storage under the bed space. I did want to put it over there, but there's a bit too much happening under the van, plus I'd have to muck around and shorten that drawer. So I picked under the seat here. I've already got my inverter here and the battery, but from the research I've done, the heater doesn't generate too much heat. It shouldn't affect it. And the inverter's in here only temporarily anyway until I relocate it. So I might even chuck that up on the side and the heater directly in here. And I'm just going to have one vent on the side here for a bit of fresh air intake. And I'm not going to use the T-piece provided and just have one vent probably offset here more towards the center of the van. For the hot air area. I've marked out just about where everything is going to affect this, and that looks to be the best position. Like I said, I have to move the inverter, and I'm just going to mark out the 100mm dropper, drill a pilot hole, measure it out again below, and then drill the hole. So I'll drill halfway through the floor, and then stop, and then come from the bottom and drill the other half. That will stop you get any like the plywood splintering or anything underneath. Okay, the worst part is done, drilling through the caravan floor. So that's it with a nice neat hole. That'll be the dropper. What I'm going to do now is just mount this plate onto the diesel heater and then just sit it in place, mark around that plate, cut the vinyl out, and just make sure it all fits before I screw it down and silicone it down. You'll notice these water pipes that I couldn't really avoid. There's a few T-pieces under there, and I'm able to sort of disconnect them and just reroute those water pipes so they'll be out of the way. So they'll be well and truly clear of any hot exhaust or if this heats up at all, this dropper or heatsink. Okay, so I mounted that up. I'm able to get it here, square it up, then I'll mark it, and then cut out the vinyl, and then get ready to silicone it down. And I'll show you from underneath why everyone sort of recommends to attach everything before you drop it through the floor, because there just wouldn't be enough room to do it. You can see underneath that that downpipe dropper definitely neatens it up, and I'll be able to silicon right around that. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have gone as close to this beam as I did, because that's going to be a prick to get silicon in there. But I'll still make it work, and these water pipes I'll be able to move around later on, so I'll show you that when we get to it. So it's the vinyl all cut out, just back to the ply, and I'll silicon up there to create a waterproof seal, especially right around here, the downpipe dropper, and then I'll get in there on the outside as well. Like I said, I'm super close to that metal edge, so it's going to be a bit fun getting some silicon in there, but I haven't got silicon, so I've got heat proof mastic, so I can make it a bit messy under there. It's not too much of an issue. Okay, so we're back under the van. There's where it comes through. Just got to seal up right around there so that no water gets up into that timber floor, so I'll do that now. Some of you might have noticed I made my first error. Forgot to attach the bloody fuel line, so I'm going to have to pull that out. Hopefully not make too much of a mess, because I just put that fire rated silicon all underneath it. So here we go. Okay, definitely don't make that mistake. I've got that fuel line on there now, and I've made a mess. Got it all over my spanners and stuff, but it's on there now, and we'll put it back through the floor. The thing you will need is some timber screws. That's all they supply to actually screw this plate down. Not that I think you'd need it with the amount of silicon I've got, but I'll get some timber screws and screw it down. After a lot of swear words, it's back in there. I just put a bit of silicon under those screws as well. I'll just wipe the excess off and tidy it up later. Yep, it was a bit of a pain to get in that edge, but nice good seal around that now. So on to the next part. I'll mount the muffler and the air intake next, and I'll get onto the fuel line. Okay, that's the air intake and exhaust done. So the air intake, I just cable tied it up there out of the way. Should be right there. I'll move it out of the way a bit more when I reroute this water pipe later on. That's the exhaust pipe. That was a bit of a pain in the ass. It's really rigid and tough to bend. Plus, it only comes with this little tiny bracket here, so I sort of had to get another piece of steel and attach it to the water outlet there. I'll replace those screws with nuts and bolts later, but that's it for now. Sloping very slightly downward, so any condensation just leaks out of there. Next, I've routed the fuel line all the way to the back of the van and attached the fuel pump and fuel filter just in line there. That's the correct orientation with it angled. Apparently that's to let the air flow a bit better, or stop air bubbles forming in the line. So next I will get the fuel stand into the fuel tank and mount that up. One thing I will need to do is duck down to Bunnings or Supercheap and get some twin cable to extend that all the way back under that cafe seat that I've got. It's just not long enough, and yeah, I want to connect it back there, but I want this close to the fuel pump, so I'm gonna have to get some cable and join it. Okay, so I've opted to use the fuel stand instead of the tap at the bottom. Apparently the tap at the bottom is notorious for leaking, so I've drilled a hole up the opposite side of where I'm going to have that, and sort of strategically bent it up so it should just finish before the bottom. I'll bend it up a little bit more here, but I don't really have anything to cut with me right now, and I want to fill it up when I go to Bunnings in one trip, so I'm going to sort of zigzag through here. Hopefully I should be able to get it in, and then I'm going to have to squeeze that in the hole at the top. That was actually surprisingly easy. The tanks are quite flexible. Now I've had to poke it out the side like that instead of directly at the top, so it fits with this cover that I bought from Yarra Supply. So I've got that in there now. I'm going to duck down and fill this up with diesel before I mount it, so then I don't have to try and tow the van down to the servo or get a jerry can to fill it up, and then I'll grab that extra cable I need while I'm out, and I think that should be, touch wood, the only trip I needed to do. So that'll do. And we've got the diesel, and we'll go back and fit it up, see how we go. So it's the fuel tank all mounted and connected. It's pretty schmick. I ended up finding some cabling, so I've cut the fuel pump connector off the harness inside. I'm just going to join it to this other cabling, route it through, and then pop out just up there near the battery box. There's an existing hole for the house battery, and then we'll pop up there, connect it to the harness, and I'll cut back inside. Okay, we called it quits yesterday because I had to go out, but this is the cable routed back from the fuel pump down the back through the existing hole where all the battery cables go through the floor. And back inside, there's that little hole in the corner where the cable ended up going through. I extended it through here. I just joined it to the cables from the control panel. Polarity doesn't matter. So I did quickly just connect it up to make sure it all worked before I got too much further with running the cables around. But the next thing we're going to do is measure up this vent for the front. And it should be roughly about center, which has worked out all right. Shouldn't be too much of an eyesore when you walk through the van. I'm just going to run with the one vent and point it roughly towards the middle. I'm not going to worry about using the T-piece that they provided. The other vent, I'm going to use this sort of a fresh air intake and just drill the hole and tuck it up somewhere here, either facing out or just over here, so face in towards the cafe seat. There's a bit of another fresh air vent for underneath here. And for the other vent, I damaged the cabinetry a few weeks ago, so it's a perfect spot for a new vent. Alright, that's the vents all mounted. My tip would be to get a small drill bit and just pre-drill those holes because they're awfully close to the edge. It's all good. It's going to be nice and clear of everything. Next up, we'll get this connected into the J-hub and hopefully get the monitor mounted up there. Okay, connection to the J-hub's complete. I just used line 14, which is spare. These are just like a little spring toggle thing. You just, I'll get the light in there, pull that forward till it opens, and it'll clamp down on the cable and then lock it in. And the 14 was spare on the negative as well. So this fuse here will be the diesel heater now. It did come with a 20 amp inline fuse, but I'll just leave the 15 in there, see how it goes. If it blows, I'll just replace it. Putting the video together, I realised I lost a couple of videos right at the end, which is a bit of a pain. But anyway, there's the vent installed. Looks nice and neat at the front, and this just clips on and rotates around. Managed to cover up that damage that I did to the cabinetry with a fresh air intake. So it's just open into this space here to help everything breathe a bit better. I ended up installing this just because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. Now I've got, or a drama queen now that I've got a little bub, but an extra CO2 monitor right next to that vent in case any diesel leaks out. And that's all the cabling sort of nicely tidied up. I'm lucky because my J-hub's just here, right next door. I could not find a pathway to... Sorry, one second, just take that out of the way. Could not find a pathway, like easy enough to get under here, to get under the fridge, but then to get up here and behind the microwave to get across to either mount the control panel here or control panel up here was just too difficult. I didn't want to drill any holes or have to take too much apart, so all I've done, it's a little bit dark in here, is just where the J-hub is here, I've just double-sided taped this to the inside door until I get a better idea where to put it. That's the controller there. It's a bit light at the moment. The lighting's terrible in here. Pretty self-explanatory. Just follow the instructions in the manual to pair a remote to it. Now the remote will work even if this is closed up in here, so that's why I wasn't too worried about it. I'm just going to have it on 20 degrees, turn it on and off with the remote. It'll come in hertz when you get it. If you want to change it to Celsius, just hold the settings button and the up button at the same time, and it'll automatically flip over to Celsius instead of Hertz. But yeah, that's it. Wasn't too bad. Pretty easy in the end, just getting through the floor is the scariest part.